Did you know that reality bends in the direction of your attention? Ladies and gentlemen, I haven't even started my video yet, and I'm being hit with waves of goosebumps. Neville Goddard is a great teacher, and I have a few notes here, and we're going to talk about imagination and how to control your attention with the imagination. But the imagination itself isn't enough. And by the end of this video, you will understand why the secret is the feeling. Guys, welcome back to Hypnovision Studios. I am your host, Nicholas. Today, we are diving into the imagination once again. And I hope to bring to you some clarity and truths about imagination and manifesting the reality you desire, because it is truly yours already. Whether you know it or not, you have been manifesting all of your life, and you have been using some of these very tools and did not even know it. So today, I will help you to discover the key to changing your direction in the way of your desire. So we're going to start off with one of the very first and most simplest things to understand. Where your focus goes, energy flows. And if you don't know the ties between emotion and energy, they are one and the same. It is energy in motion. The emotion in the body is put into motion by the feelings coupled with thoughts. So that's why Neville Goddard says that the secret is the feeling. How do we change the feeling? How do we change our natural vibration to a higher frequency? And how do we hold on to what it is that we visualize so that we may change and bring it into our reality? Neville Goddard often mentions that our outer worlds are reflections of our inner worlds. And what we are dominantly thinking about is what we are getting reflections back in our reality. I, for one, have found this to be very true. And I'm going to give you a few examples of this as we move along through this video. So I do hope that you stick around to the very end, because throughout this video, I'm going to be dropping a lot of examples and tips for you out there. So here's a few things that I want to point out in regards to where your focus goes, energy flows. If you are constantly focused on things like worry, doubt, fear, and a lack mentality, you will often see these things reflected back to you in your environment. So changing like a radio station and dialing the tune into a different vibration will indeed get you a different result. This is the mirror principle at its most basic understanding. I have these things within me now, and that is how you start to change the reflection. My friends, all of you out there have the ability to do this yourself. And if you don't believe me, just take a few seconds and close your eyes and start to visualize something that you desire greatly. And ask yourself, in this moment, while I'm visualizing, how does it make me feel to know that I have it? I can see it within my mind's eye, and I can feel it pulsing through my body in this moment. It's only a matter of time before it is reflected in your reality in real life. So guys, when we start to change our vibration, we are changing the frequency or how often that these thought patterns are coming around. The more that we can direct our attention into other means, other desires, and stop focusing on things that we don't want and focus on the things that we do want, we are flipping the script. We are actually correcting the inverted reality of things, and we are no longer allowing our mind to work against us. We are putting the mind, the body, and the soul in alignment. And once that starts to happen, the manifestations will start to pick up. And the more that you are able to pour your feelings and emotions and couple those to those mental images, the faster these manifestations will happen. So Being able to meditate is a very big thing here, guys. You can meditate practically anywhere. As long as you can close your eyes, preferably in a darker place, to allow yourself to foster your imagination from darkness. Now, in the beginning, I said that reality bends in the direction of your attention. And I want you to really think about this for just a minute. If reality is bending towards your attention, what does that tell us? When we think about nature itself and we look at how trees and plants and things of nature grow, they have a tendency to move towards the light. So imagination is light. What else is light? God is light and sound. So we are onto something here, guys. The secret goes deeper than you thought. Neville Goddard often refers to Jesus Christ as the imagination. The Christ part is the imagination. Why is that? Well, for many of you, whether you know this or not, but the pineal gland is known as the seat of God. And it is also where a lot of things happen. The crystals, the Christ. The vibration of these tiny crystals are piezoelectric, which means they create energy when they are vibrating against each other. Not only do they create energy, but energy is a form of light. We know that we have light pulsing, right? Like neurons firing across our brains. Where do you think these mental pictures come from? There is an association between sound and light. When we hear things, when our eyes are closed and we are engaged in our imagination, we are able to build visual representations in our mind's eye. But it is also the feeling that gets coupled with this. Sometimes when we are not aware of these very own aspects of our own five sensory input, then we are likely to take on the explanations, the interpretations of the outside world without knowing any better for ourselves. So we can build a false illusion of what reality is. But once you learn to control reality for yourself through your imagination and your attention, then you will have the keys to manifest anything you so desire. And it also is important to remind everyone out there that another key to this is to always treat others the way that you want to be treated. The whole laws of the universe, the 7 hermetic laws, and the idea of the pendulum, right? What goes out comes back in. What is planted in the soul of a human will grow and manifest back outward. If you look at computer programming, for example, you can see the workings of the human body within the software itself. You have command lines. You have a tree, right? You go into a folder that has a folder that has another folder, and then you go down into the root of the system. The operating system is built on a foundation, much like the human experience is built on the imagination, and the reoccurring thought patterns are the operating system. So once we start to change the operating system through the feeling, then we can see the thoughts that we have in our mind from a different angle. If we are at a low vibing angle, and then we change our vibration to a higher state of being, the thought over here does not really change. We have changed the perception and the feeling of the thought. That, my friends, is really deep when you start to think about it. So I encourage you all out there to take a few minutes every single day and write down your most desired things and then reflect to yourself. How do these things make me feel? And if you ever have doubt in your mind, I want you to get in the habit of correcting yourself. If a thought pops up, oh, that will never happen. It would be nice if I could, but it's not for me. It will never happen. I want you to practice being more aware that you are having these thoughts. And in those moments, tell yourself, that's not true. That's not really accurate. Because I can think it and I can feel it, definitely means that it is very possible, it is very likely, And now it is more probable because now you are aware that you are thinking that you are not able to do these things. But the simple fact that you have become aware, now you have the conscious choice to choose otherwise. That in itself is a hidden blessing. And throughout the rest of this video, I'm going to be dropping little Easter eggs and hints for you guys. For example, when I left work today, I caught 555 3 different times. And just as I was realizing this was the 3rd time that I had seen 555, a car changed lanes in front of me. Guess what? It had 2222 on the license plate. So guys, we were always getting symbols. We were always getting signs. And when you look into Carl Jung himself, he speaks about the subconscious speaks in symbolism. So if you watch my channel at any length, then you know I have done some videos on symbolism itself. The sacred geometry of the universe is always in perfection because there is always an equal to an opposite. There is always the yin to the yang, the up and the down, the left and the right. There is always an opposing force of equal amount of energy. So it is all in what we are tapping into is with our attention, our awareness, and our thought patterns. So if we can start to become aware of what we are thinking in good terms and bad terms, then we can start to shift that tide into a different direction. And the more we repeat these like a pattern, the more that they start to grow roots and firm foundation for manifestation. I personally have been very astounded by some of these things that I have caught personally myself. I, for one, never really was much into numerology or other aspects of religions and spirituality, but I found it very fascinating to learn about as many of them as I could. Now I have a much broader understanding of different denominations, different religions, and different belief systems themselves. And if I may share with you this right now, the word believe, be life. So when we witness to another person, the divinity of them within, we are breathing life into another person. And that is simply amazing when you stop and think about how deep and spectacular that is. To breathe life into another person, to show them their own connection to God in the universe and to all things is simply like being a messenger, being an angel to them. Neville Goddard often speaks about people being our own messengers. They are reflecting to us our most inner thoughts and desires. Our most inner state of being often is reflected back to us. And I'm getting hit with waves of goosebumps thinking about this. There was a time in my life when I was always in a agitated, aggravated state of being. And guess what? Everything in my life was agitating me. It wasn't the things in the outside world. I couldn't change those things. It was actually an indication of my own inner state of being. There was once when I said that the universe was trying to F me. And honestly, that's what I was getting in my life because that's what I thought. That's what I felt. And that's what I manifested. So guys, yes, these things really do hold a lot of truth. And so my goal here today is to help you to become more self-aware of these things and to understand that you have the power, you have the choice. And the more that you become aware, the more that you can choose to redirect your attention through the imaginative state. The word imagination is such a lovely word. And I, for one, have come to really understand it in many different perceptions. On the one hand, it contains the word image. On the other hand, it contains the word nation. And right smack dab in the middle, it contains the word magi. Now, this also goes hand in hand with magnetism. The imagination, much like magnets, has an unseen force. To the person on the outside of you, they cannot see what's in your imagination. They may be able to pick up on your vibe, maybe even other aspects of you, depending on how well their intuition is or how well they pay attention to the dynamics between you and them. But likewise, they can be totally unaware, and you could be the one that is paying attention to things that they are not aware of. And you have a choice. You can choose to point it out, or you can choose to keep it to yourself. But if you choose to point things out, make sure that when you do it through a self-example. Because I have learned that when you try to point things out to people who are not aware, they become very defensive. It feels like a personal attack against them. And that is really the last thing we want to do when we're trying to help another person, is to make them feel like they are being personally attacked because they feel like they're in the wrong for some reason. And that feels like an attack. So if we are trying to help another person, then using ourselves as an example is the highest form of love. It is the highest form of witnessing to them the reflection of God. Sometimes it is not our ego that needs to speak. It is allowing God to move through us in service of the universe and creation itself. It is the highest form of being an earth angel, of being a messenger of God, to allow at certain times your ego to be put to the side and allow God to speak through you is the ultimate form of witnessing to another. And I personally have learned this on my channel over the last couple years. There were a lot of things that it was very uncomfortable for me to say because I was in fear of reaction. I think I said this in my last video. The fear kept me in a limited lack mentality. And this really draws a point to the idea of mindsets. We can be fixed into a mindset just like roots of a tree firmly planted in the ground. And no matter how much wind or storms come along and push against that tree, the roots are firmly planted in the ground. And if enough force is put on that tree, something will break, something will give. Unlike something like a palm tree, for example. A palm tree is very flexible. You can put it under tremendous stress and it will bend and bend and bend. And as soon as the stress is over, that palm tree is going to stand right back up. So we have to have a bit of patience, a bit of flexibility when it comes to manifesting and awareness itself. Because one of the things that most people do not tell you is that the point of becoming aware means that your current situation has not yet caught up to the desired state of being. So it takes a bit of time for it to be reflected back to you. And most people give up way too soon. Neville Goddard often speaks about a held attention, held in such a way that it is unwavering. But one thing that we know for sure is that the human imagination has the ability to drift. And what does drift mean? It means, for example, let's say you sit on a couch and you intend to visualize. Well, within 30 seconds, your mind has already jumped to something else. Is your thoughts being pulled away like a magnet being pulled into another thought pattern? Or are you magnetic enough that you can grab that thought with your attention and hold it in place and feel it and amplify the feeling within inside and continue to raise that vibration higher and higher and higher? You saw as I started this video, I was being hit with waves of goosebumps. I've spent most of the day thinking about this video I am making right now. I've seen myself talk throughout the whole video in perfection and being hit again with chills right now. But I can guarantee you, without some kind of way to keep me on track, I have notes here, guys. This is helping me from drifting too far off a topic. So we do need things to help center us until we get a handle of manifesting and using our imagination to control our attention. I will share something else with you. Many years ago, back in the day in the late 70s and 80s, there was no such thing as ADHD. It was just ADD. However, I learned to take the acronym itself of ADHD and rearrange the words and call it hyper direct attention drive. And just a simple switching and rearranging of words and sentences can bring about the change in our self-talk that really amplifies those feelings and emotions. The body is the energy in motion. The thought is the driver. So when we couple these things together, we have powerful techniques to manifest from. Our actions are based on what we believe. That is the life, right? Be life, believe, be life. So when we have a belief, we take action from that point. And when we change a belief, we change the action. We are changing the energy because our belief has changed and we feel differently. So the vibration has changed. And it is only appropriate for reality to conform. That is why Romans 12:2 tells us to not conform to the patterns of the outside world and renew the mind. That really does hold a lot of credence to Neville Goddard speaking about our outer worlds being a reflection of our inner reality. We are what we think we are, and we see the world as we are, not as it is, meaning that we are adding our own filter to reality through our viewpoint. The observation? The observer effect, for example. When we are observing from a place of detachment, we are neither given a good or a bad feeling. We are just observing something for what it is in its raw nature. We can see things for what they are without adding a feeling, because when we add the feeling, we are actually filtering. So when we understand how this process works, now we can control it. Now we can nudge it in different directions. We have desires as humans. It's natural. And the other thing that I learned over the past few years, especially with my semen retention videos, is that every single thing in life has a sexual connotation to it. It really does. And on a surface level, it might seem silly to say, but if you spend any time reflecting, like self-reflecting on this, you will start to understand that yes, indeed, every single thing in life is positive or negative, male or female. One of the Hermetic laws is the fact that there is only two genders, male and female. You can call people what they want by gender, that's fine. But nature itself is something that we as humans cannot change. We have no control over nature. We are born from nature ourselves. And there are certain laws that we cannot change. We cannot fly on our own because gravity, if you want to call it that, I think it's magnetism. You can walk off a cliff and it will pull you down to the bottom. You cannot change gravity. You cannot change the laws of gravity. However, you know that they are there, just like the unseen forces of magnets and just like the unseen forces of imagination. It is the one thing that is deeply hidden from us. We are in a constant state of imagining things, whether we know it or not. And that is something that once you learn, you can start to control your own reality through your attention and your feeling. This is where most people mess. They think visualization is just getting mental pictures, but that's not all of it. It is also the feeling. So Neville Goddard also tells us to assume that you have the wish fulfilled now. What does that mean? Well, guys, the imagination is always active. For some time last year, I kept thinking this thought over and over, active imagination, and I kept repeating it to myself over and over. So when something would happen in my life that I didn't like or I didn't feel like was a good fit or a vibe for me, then I would say to myself, active imagination, I can imagine this differently. And yes, it may not have changed immediately, but I would notice that something would change. And now it is more in alignment with myself. So we do have a lot of hidden talents and powers within. Most people are too externalized to see these things. Again, ADHD, right? So a lot of people like myself grew up in the modern times. We all had TVs, game systems, and endless content to consume. This keeps us from knowing ourselves. This keeps our attention externalized and locked into other things. So when we learn to be still and know that I am, we start to understand the I am part. The I am is you. It is me. It is all of you out there. I am the wish fulfilled now. I feel the emotions of gratitude in my body. I feel the emotions of joy in my body. I feel the emotions of happiness in my body. Guess what, guys? I'm getting hit with waves of goosebumps again. This is alchemy at its most basic form, because what we are doing, we are sending command lines out with the word I am. I am happiness now. Guess what? The brain is sending a signal to the body to release the corresponding hormones. So now you start to see when we focus on worry, fear, doubts, guess what we are doing? We are directing with our attention to have the body to respond with the corresponding emotion and feeling. So when we start to say to ourselves, I am happy, I am peace, I am joy, I am love, we are flooding the body with chemical compounds, and we are changing the vibration of the body. The pituitary gland and our circadian rhythm, along with the pineal gland, connected to our reproductive system, is where all of this happens. There is an electromagnetic field around the body because we do have those neurons, those electrical impulses. We do have chemicals in our body, and we have thought. Thoughts are not emotions. They are logic. How many times have you been around somebody and logically it just doesn't make sense, but you really like someone? Perhaps maybe you even love someone, and they are just not really what you would think, ideally, that person being your cup of tea. You can't logically explain it, but emotionally you feel it. That is picking up on someone else's vibe. That is a vibrational match in many ways. Sometimes perception, what we see with our eyes, is that filter, not reality. That goes back to we see the world as we are, not as it is. So sometimes we cannot logically explain things. Logic comes from a certain portion of the brain, right? They say left brain and right brain, there is that neurodivergence. Why? The pineal gland sits right in between them. That's why it's called the seat of God. It is the door between left and right. Logic and emotion. Logic is black and white. Creativity and emotions are a vivid color range. So when we are able to couple these things together, we are able to send these vibrations out. We are able to say, this is what I think, this is what I feel, give me more. Your brain, your body works like an algorithm. What you search for on social media or what you search for on different websites, you've likely have closed your phone and opened a different app later on, only to see those same things being advertised to you on a different platform. Your body and your mind is working the same way. Your dominant thoughts are constantly being sent out, and they're being reflected back to you by others. That's why Neville Goddard calls them messengers, because they are telling you what state you are in, what thoughts you are thinking dominantly. So if you find yourself feeling like you're sticking out like a sore thumb, perhaps you're in the midst of changing a state of being. Perhaps it is you that is in flux between two states. And that is something interesting. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong. It means that you are self-aware. You are paying attention. You are noticing. And that means that you are consciously aware of self. And that is a good thing, because you have the choice and you are able to choose. So here's something else, guys. Neville Goddard says the imagination is the only reality. Imagination is the here and now. The idea of the past and the present, converging in the present, really is true. Because you can go into imagination, you can go into meditation, close your eyes. You can think about something that happened 20 years ago. You can think about something that happens in the future, maybe 20 years in the future. You have just created a 40-year span in your imagination. You can think of the tallest buildings, the largest cities. You can think of the globe of the entire world with your eyes closed, and it is fitting inside that tiny little head of yours. That's how wonderful your imagination truly is. Most people don't understand that they have the ability to create on earth. The whole idea of creating heaven on earth, right? We want to create with our imagination from the inside, not take on everything from the outside. So when we start to do this, we are literally able to create like the image of our Creator. We can witness to others the divinity within them, and we help them, and in return, it helps us. That is a win-win because it is an equal give and take. Using your own self as an example sometimes, I have found to be very powerful. I often have shared many of my own life struggles almost in a humiliating way. Not because I enjoy sharing things that are bad that happened to me, but I want to show other people that just because something bad happened doesn't mean that it's the way things will always be. Just because something bad happened doesn't mean that it will happen again. You may go through something bad in life and then tell another person who is going through something bad, and it gives them hope. It gives them belief. Again, you are breathing life into another person. And what else could be more fantastic than being an earth angel to someone else? I truly believe this. It changed my life, guys. And that's why I'm making these videos. Because once you learn how to control your reality, control your attention through your imagination, and you start to learn that your imagination is the magnetism of self. Our dominant thoughts that are coming from our imagination is what is creating our reality. You can shift and manifest anything. Once you embrace your desires and you throw out the whole idea of right and wrong in regards to yourself, right? And we stop judging people. This is very important for somebody like myself who grew up around people who were judgmental, right? We are comparing ourselves to others. The whole concept of trauma bonds, right? Where we bond through another person through a negative experience. This is a little bit different than sharing something that you went through that was a bad experience. To give hope to another person versus just gathering with another person and we just talk about a problem and we have a shared experience with a problem. But neither one of the two people encourage each other that things can be better. We just bond through the negativity. So how can there be growth between two negative things? Eventually, if you take two magnets and turn the poles to the same direction, they will start to repel each other. No matter how much you try to force them back together, the minute that the external force leaves, they are going to separate. So there is these unseen forces that are always working. And the quicker that you are able to spot and identify through your own awareness, the faster you can turn some of these poles around so that they are in alignment. You don't have to trauma bond with somebody. You can identify that something is forming as a trauma bond, but you do not have to accept it as reality. So given examples of your own life where something went from a negative to positive and then encourage someone, that's not a trauma bond. However, if we just simply agree and we continue to allow that to fester and grow into a pattern, then yes, it does likely have the chance and maybe the probability that it does. And these are some of the lessons that I learned over the past couple years of really becoming self-aware of the I am inside. Again, guys, I am happy. I am love. I am peace. I am joy. I am grateful for the air in my lungs. I am grateful for the electricity flowing through my mind. I am grateful for the water in my body. I am grateful for the skin that covers my body. I am grateful for my eyes to see. I am grateful for my voice to speak. I am grateful to wake up every single morning knowing that there was a time when I did not. That is the difference when we start to allow our most inner desires to freely grow, and then we nurture them with attention and feelings. We allow ourselves to feel naturally, to feel what it means to be a human. There really is, what is the idea of right and wrong? We all have a moral compass. We know what is right and what is wrong, regardless of man-made laws, regardless of what religion tells us. And religion itself, I must point out again, and I will do this often, the word religion contains the word legion, and that is a militant mindset to do as I say, not as I do, to follow orders and commands, to follow what someone on the outside is telling us to do. So again, guys, we have that same executive function within our mind. We are able to command lines to our body. I am grateful. I am love, peace, joy, fulfillment. I have these things now. And the higher that I can set that vibration and frequently remind myself, right? Because the frequency, we have thought, energy, and frequency, matter, and vibration. So all of these things are working behind the scenes. They're always working in our favor. The universe, has been said many times, it does not care what you want. It will just give it to you. So if we have a negative perception, we will get that perception. If we have a positive perception, we will get more of that, just like an algorithm on social media. And guys, I do hope that this video has been helpful for you. And I hope that these things really do help you to start to change the course and direction within your own life. Because it is really true. The secret is the feeling. And once you acknowledge that, you can start to change it, and you can start to play with it and really start to give life its own meaning and purpose for you. You can manifest anything. You can become anything. And if you can act as if you have it now, remember, acting, what does it take for a great movie? Great actors? So the self-talk is the self-story that we are telling ourselves. The I am is part of that self-story. I am a loser. I am no good. I am not worthy. Stop telling yourself these things. And when you catch yourself doing it, correct yourself. You're not right or wrong for being who you are. But at the same time, you do have the conscious choice to change. And guys, in closing, I want to share one more thing with you. You don't have to force outer reality, because all you need to do is change the inner parts of yourself, and the outer reality will conform to the state of being. The state of being, for example, love is not an attachment. It is a state of being. And when we think about love, we release oxytocin. Guess what? Oxy and oxygen. Oxygen is something that is a requirement for life. You cannot have life without oxygen. So guys, remember to speak kindly to yourself and think kindly about yourself and take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't be there for others. And once you learn to do this, I promise you, your reality will change in ways that you never really have dreamed of. And now you will start to see that dreams do come true, that dreams can be reality, and that anything is possible. And I will see you on the next one.